Okay, let's have a little bit of a closer look at using warping to adjust time. So just before I go ahead and do that, I'm just going to rename my tracks here and maybe this clip. So if you go Command R, that's how to rename. So I'll call this shaker, and I'm also going to call this shaker, and I could call it shaker 1 if I was going to do another version or something like that. And I'm going to rename this as well, so this can be called sticks. That's fine. At least now they've got some names, so I can kind of see what's going on a little bit better. And let's have a look. So I'm going to record again. We've had a look at the in and out. I'm going to monitor this in a minute when I finish talking. And let's turn the monitoring down a little bit. And I record for quite a while. And what I want to do is look at, again, a sort of adjusting the boundaries of clips and using warp markers to change the timing of the performance. So, off we go. Okay, that'll do. And if we double click here, you can see I've recorded all of these little transients. So this time what I'm going to do is I'm just going to roughly zoom in on a couple of bars just before the end. So I might pick these 4 bars. And at the moment I'm not looking at the transients, I'm just looking at the bar and beat locators here. I'm just going to hit play. That seems to be working fairly well, but I'm just going to zoom in and have a really close look here. So actually, because these are on the upbeats, there's nothing too drastic on either end here. Okay, so what I'm going to do is let's crop this to start with. So I'm just going to say this is the only part I want to use. I can always come back to the rest of the sample. So cropping the clip is right click or command click. And crop sample is what I want. And let's have a look at that. Okay, so it's sort of in time, but there are some hits that are sort of a little bit before or after the grid. And let's have a look at what we can do with this. So as I showed you before, we could quantize the whole thing. So if I just right click, and I'm just going to look at the quantize settings again, and 16th notes, or I could put current grid, which is pretty much the same. It's actually on 8th notes, this one. And I'm going to leave it 100% and click OK. And if we have a closer look now, you'll see that each of the transients is pretty much exactly on a grid point. Okay, and we can have a listen to that, and it should sound pretty much so it's on the and of every beat. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and so on. Okay, so that's quantized every note. Another option, if I sort of wanted to keep some of the, I suppose, natural swing or the groove of the performance, if that's something that you wanted to keep, I'm going to undo my quantize, and I'm just going to go through and just find the transients that are, sound a little bit off to me. So this one here is a little bit rushed, and you can see that it's off the grid by a bit. So what I'm going to do, and this is a little bit of a tip here, is if I just grab that and move it, we're going to get this problem where the other ones are moving, which we talked about before. But if I hold Command temporarily, you'll notice that it puts these other, the previous and the following warp markers in for me, and then I get this kind of rubber band effect that I've mentioned before. So let's just zoom out just a little bit more. Actually, I'll give us a bit more room. There we go. So we're looking at this, and this marker, Command, and now I can drag that one close to the grid, and you'll notice that these other ones stayed where they were. And have a listen. Okay, so there's a couple of options. You can manually move things closer to or onto the grid. You can use quantize. There's a few other options for quantize. If you go in, I could do a lower percentage and a different note division and so on. So they're things to experiment with. I'm just going to leave that how it is for the time being. In fact, I might quantize it because I want it right on the grid for, oops, let's just go, I just want to increase that to 100%. Alright, okay, so what I want to try now is using warp markers to change the length of a clip. Okay, so what I want to do is essentially squish this into half the time that it already is, just as an example or an experiment. So if we zoom in to the end here and double click here, I'm going to get the last warp marker happening. I'll zoom back out and I can drag that right in here. Basically I'm making this double time. I'm squashing it so it's going to play twice as quickly. And let's see how it sounds. It's probably not going to sound great, but we'll give it a go. It kind of works. And it'd be interesting to create a duplicate, put it on another track maybe. There we go. And I'm going to pull this one back out to its original length. See how it sounds if we play all of them. And then pan them. Okay, so a bit of an interesting effect there. Let's have a quick look at one other thing. So I'm going to solo the clip that we squashed. And a quick tip here is if you select a parameter and press delete, you can reset it to its default position. So I'm going to do that with these two. So okay, now let's have a look here. So I don't want to go into this in any real detail, but I just want to mention that there are different algorithms used for warping, which work better on different types of material. So there's beats, tones, textures, repitch, complex and complex pro. Fairly self-explanatory. Should test them out on different material to see how they work for you. The one that I want to mention, so all of them work by adjusting pitch independent of time. So that means that you can keep something, time independent of pitch, or the other way around. You can stretch something but keep the same pitch, except for repitch. So this is going to compress the audio in time. It's going to play twice as fast, but it's also going to go up in pitch. So let's just have a listen to how it sounds with repitch selected. Okay, it's pretty different than using beats, which maintains the original. And if, just as a further experiment, if we perhaps duplicate this clip, so that's Option, click and drag, and I'm going to view that one. So I'm just going to change my loop length here to 8 bars and drag this out. So this time I'm stretching it double time. Not double time, half time. So this is going to play twice as slowly, and I'm going to solo that instead now. Let's just reset these quickly. Okay, so notice that it's playing slower, but in the same pitch as the original. This is the original here. This is slowed down. But if I change that to repitch, you'll hear it pitch down. Okay, so there's a little bit more about warping. There's still more different ways that you can use it, but that should be enough to get you started on fixing up timing issues and doing a little bit of experimental stuff.